Manchester United 4, Brighton and Hove Albion 2. What a game. And Frank Eilert, the Manchester United fan that decided to grow his hair last October and wouldn't get it cut until United won 5 in a row. United are only 2 games away from Frank calling his barber. Janusz Mihalik alongside myself, Mark Donaldson. Just a really enjoyable game. That was a proper Manchester United at Old Trafford game that we remember from all those years ago, Janusz.
Yes, I mean, I was going to say tale of two halves, but it wasn't. It was about the substitutions, which we'll get to later. Almost feels like new Man United meet old Man United. When I was looking at it, but to the positives, a very, very good, right? I mean, if you look at Manchester United, all I could remember is the up and down season. Just recently beating Chelsea, and then the next game going away and losing to Brentford, right? And here you are. I mean, there's no bigger stage than beating Liverpool at Anfield. It felt like today, when it was 3-0, it felt like Liverpool has created a monster. I look at the table, I see a 4th spot, and, United going to get a nosebleed, right? Not used to this altitude for sure. But, I mean, everything was working. I mean, for the most part, you're seeing a healthy Manchester United team, players like Mateus Cunha, who had 0 goals and 0 assists, certainly contributed a great goal. These, good players find a way, don't they? I mean, you can't keep them down for too long. So it was all positive until it went sour a little bit. And I think, at that stage, you kind of worried, they're going to, get back to the old or bad ways. But, nothing like, imagine after a game like this, which was a great performance for Manchester United, you need to go in the 96th minute to make sure that you win it.
Yeah, but they were 3-1 up until it became 3-2 in the 92nd minute. So, look, this is about Manchester United on the whole playing very well. They played with a swagger today. They have the front 3, and Šeško got an assist, didn't get among the goals, but Brian Mbeumo got a couple, Mateus Cunha getting his first. Has it always, all along, just been about patience until new players in a new system click with each other?
Yes and no. I mean, yeah. I mean, we often forget, especially as pundits, right? 5, 6, 7 games, and we start judging teams and players as if we saw them for the first time. And I think we knew the quality of Mbeumo. I mean, I think he's been showing it anyway. This is not the player that we're looking at, because I think the way he's played, it's been very good up until now. But yeah, Mateus Cunha, if you look at the numbers, and let's not forget, numbers are important. They weren't there, right? If you look at Bruno Fernandes, it's always been there. But now, when everybody else around him performs this way, it almost doesn't feel like Bruno Fernandes got to be thinking, well, at least I don't have to do everything all by myself, right? It was kind of telling, because I thought, about that, and that 4th goal by Mbeumo, here's Bruno Fernandes getting an assist without touching a ball, right? So I think it is important. It is important to give time, but by the same token, I've always felt with Manchester United is that pressure was on Amorim, rightfully so, but players needed to take responsibility on their shoulders. They needed to take the ownership of the game. And today you felt like no matter where you look, that happened, right? It happened in a way against Chelsea to a small degree. You have to confirm that. They didn't. It happened against Liverpool at Anfield. And now this is what happens. That pressure eases, Mark, right? When you get, 2, 3, 4 game winning streak, I think, there's always pressure on Manchester United, but I think you play freer. And that's what we saw today for the first 60 minutes, whatever you want to call it, because after the substitutions, it fell apart. That's why Amorim is going to remember that. The fans are going to remember that. And there's always that what if, right? Because with Manchester in general, no lead is safe in the Premier League. With Manchester United, that is still the case.
Yeah, and look, if they'd been pegged back, then I think that's more of a narrative. I understand what you're saying, but I think if we're looking at picking faults before praising, I think that's the wrong way round. And I also think Manchester United should have had a penalty. I've currently got it on loop. Now, it's the 15th, 16th minute, and Ahmad's cut inside onto his left. The referee, Anthony Taylor, says there is a touch on the ball by De Cowper. Now, there might be the slightest touch, but it's also a foul here. Now, the Premier League Match Centre has a Twitter account on X. It says the referee's call of no penalty to Manchester United was checked and confirmed by VAR, with it deemed that De Cowper played the ball. No, not for me.
That is nonsense explanation. Absolute nonsense, because De Cowper had no idea. He was hoping that the ball was going to touch him. He didn't play the ball. He knew he was beaten. He stuck out his leg behind, right? It's something that I do when I play five-a-side for small goals, right? To block the little goal. So to me, that's a clear penalty. It's barely a touch, and he was beaten. And I think, of course, that was a chance to get to that ball. So I don't care what the laws of the game say, because they're incorrect in this one, in my opinion. Anyway, that's a penalty. Always in my book. Anyway.
Well, look, it's not so much the laws of the game are incorrect. I think it's the interpretation is incorrect here. Because let's just tweak this slightly. A player says, "I won the ball, ref." Ref's like, "I agree with you," but the player then subsequently follows through on his opponent. That player is penalised for a foul. So there should be no difference there in that instance. And by the way, I also think Manchester United's third goal shouldn't have counted, because a tug on a jersey, regardless of how a player fouls, is a tug on the jersey. We will get to that. But for me, that was a penalty. But United kept pressing, and that's what I liked about them in the first half. It wasn't a case of, that should have been a penalty, feeling sorry for yourself. I was very impressed by United's movement in that first half. And I thought Brighton's defence kind of struggled with, I think there was one instance where a ball was played in behind by Mbeumo to Cunha. And I just thought they showed they were starting to click. And the first goal was a good goal. It was Cunha's goal, and it was after 24 minutes. What did you make of it?
Yeah, firing on all cylinders. And that's what I mean. When you look at Cunha and Mbeumo, you just know that eventually these players are going to click. With Amad Diallo on that side, the combination play was outstanding. Šeško didn't look like much, but played his part without scoring, right? Had that chance with his left foot, should have done a little bit better. But I think he was always part of that. And Casemiro was very important. That's the difference. Casemiro is still an excellent player when things go United's way. Because, in the past, when United were losing game after game after game, at his age, he's not a player to grind. That's not where his value is. But when United play properly, like they have against Liverpool and here, then you still see the value of the experience, the ability to pass, the ability to see, because that little pass for the first goal, seems so easy, but, perfect weight, which made it easier for Cunha to get that proper touch, and then wonderful finish anyway. So, yeah, United is, that's why I jokingly said that the Liverpool created a monster, because this was as good as I've seen United in a long, long time. At least that first half in general, and then bleeding into the second half. Everything was what we imagined, right? When Mbeumo signed with them, when Mateus Cunha, who can play just about anywhere, he pops up in the right spots, technically very good. Maybe he's not a great player, but he's a very, very good player that just, injuries here and there, a new team, let's see what happens. Two games don't make a season, but you just always knew that he's got that quality in him.
Yeah, I've just found a tweet from our ESPN FC colleague, Rob Dawson, our Manchester correspondent, who said that might be the best 45 minutes under Amorim. United leading 2-0, but could be 3 or 4, just need to finish the job. That came about with a second goal from Casemiro. And remember, these are opponents for Manchester United that has beaten United in 6 of the last 7 games in the Premier League. They've come to Old Trafford recently in the last 3 seasons, and they've been disappointed when they haven't gone back with maximum points. So United 2-0 up. What did you make of the second goal scored by Casemiro?
Well, first, I think we need to talk, because what led up to the goal was more important than goal itself, because it was a huge deflection, right? Luke Shaw and his positioning in this game. It's not unusual for fullbacks to come inside centrally. But what was interesting here is that it often happens in the build-up where you see, the Cucureas of the world, or we see Liverpool fullbacks do this, and Manchester City, I think they were the ones that sort of started that. But without the ball, Luke Shaw pressing centrally on Rutter, right? I mean, he wins that ball with a high press when Brighton had the ball. By the way, I think he did it on the third one as well, where you call it a foul, which I think you are right, but he sort of forced all of that, right? Once again, stepping inside when Brighton had the ball. So him winning that ball, I think, made it a lot easier for Casemiro to hit that ball. Obviously a big deflection, but still, that was another tweak that we saw for Luke Shaw, who in general, after just so many injuries and being unavailable, again, another player that's showing his quality.
Okay, so just after the hour mark, it's 3 for Manchester United. I'm going to give you my justification here, whether you think it's right or whether it's wrong. Based on the laws of the game, Jorginho Rutter has his jersey tugged and he stops. This is not about how soft it is, because here's Premier League Match Centre again on Twitter, 61st minute. The referee's call of goal for Manchester United was checked and confirmed by VAR, with the contact from Shaw on Rutter in the build-up deemed to be minimal. It's like whether or not you go down after you've been illegally challenged. It shouldn't matter. A foul is a foul. Now, he's got away with this when Rutter's probably thinking, hey, that's a yellow card. Never mind, that's a foul. You have to play to the whistle. But the severity of a jersey tug, what's he going to have to do? Is he going to have to take his jersey and take it over his head and do that? This, for me, is a foul, just like Manchester United should have had a penalty in the first. I just feel with Anthony Taylor, he's a referee who was very, very good. He's taken charge of a World Cup final. I don't know if he's at that level right now. There's little things that get away from him, and I thought this one did. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of things gotten away from him. I mean, he's let a lot go, which I think as viewers we often like, but a lot of them throughout the game I deemed as fouls. I'm not talking major decisions, but just the regular decisions within the game. And this is not the first game for Anthony Taylor that he struggled recently, right? So I think it's fair to say that it wasn't his big game. I remember there was a penalty shot on Bumo, which I think that was correct, by the way, because we omitted that. So I want to give him some credit. But on this one, my gut feeling was a foul. I mean, Luke Shaw got turned, right? And, when you get turned, you look guilty when you do that. And when that leads into the goal with VAR right now, I think I'm going to have to, I'm not going to have to, but I will agree with your assessment of that one because I would call that back.
Still got to score it. Really good goal in Bumo. And he deserved that, didn't he? I thought his play for most of the game, if not all of the game, it was never ending. He was constantly harrying and chasing, getting into good positions, setting up teammates.
For me, best player on the pitch, although in a different I watched him differently today. Bruno Fernandes was very, very close in a much different way, as I just explained.
Yeah, more deeper.
Everybody around him was doing their bit, right? But in between, he was just doing, I think he must, if there was one player that enjoyed this game immensely, I would have to say it was Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. So it's United 3-0 up, and you're thinking, oh, game over. It's refreshing from a United perspective to feel like you're so comfortable against a Brighton team that's owned you at Old Trafford in the last 3 years. Then Danny Welbeck in the 74th minute. You're wondering, is it just a consolation, or could it be more than that? He's one of the form players in the Premier League right now. Took his goal well. Yeah,
and that happened after another kind of controversy, right? When Minta went and Dorgu stopped him. And to me, that, if you get a yellow, I'm glad I didn't tweet right after that, right? Because I thought it was a terrible. Normally that's a red card, but I guess the explanation on this one, which I will buy, is that the goalkeeper had possession of the ball when the contact was made. So fair play. I didn't sort of know that. That didn't even come into my mind when it did happen. But that was the free kick, puts it away. Yeah, commentators were talking about in the middle of the goal. I suppose, I think Lemons possibly could have done better because it wasn't a wonderful free kick taken by Welbeck, Danny Welbeck, who continues to deliver, by the way, this time at Old Trafford against his old team. So, and then after that, they had chances. They kept pushing. And that's why here, you can't put it on Amorim about the substitutions, right? When you play as well as United have played and you're 3-0 up, you got to feel like you can trust your team and make those substitutions. But, looking at all of them, because you're going to probably talk about the next one where Xerxes terrible marking on a corner against Kostulos. But, if I look at the players that came in, Mainu, Dorgu, Ugarte, Xerxes, perhaps they know why they're not playing, why they're not in the starting 11, because, all of that after Shaw, Diallo, Casemiro, and Cunha and Šeško left, the game has changed and it was negative, right? These players didn't come in and didn't contribute. In fact, almost allowed Brighton to come in. I know it's a one-off. I know Amorim has to do that for the reasons that I've just mentioned. You got to trust your players. The game is won. You feel after an excellent performance, but that gives Amorim, a little bit of thinking.
Yeah, Lamins has come in since joining Manchester United, and when he's been given the opportunity, he's been very solid. Not done much wrong.
Nothing
he would be the one. No, he would be the one I would be interested to know if he felt that he should have done better, because any goalkeeper conceding, I know it's powerful from Welbeck's free kick, but you're right, it's where he concedes. It's not top corner. It's not right by the post. I think his positioning is maybe just a little bit too far to the left, or the positioning of his wall isn't good enough. But anyway, you still got to score the free kick. Danny Welbeck does that very well. And 3-1, our question of was that just a consolation or was it more than that, was kind of answered when Charalampos Kostulas, another, nobody's heard of him, then Brighton sign him, and then they sell him for 20 million to Chelsea in 3 years' time, gets a goal to make it 3-2. Talented youngster. He comes on, and Welbeck's already got one. That made it 3-2. The atmosphere changed, didn't it, when that one went in?
Yeah, as I've said, absolutely, right? If it ended 3-2, you still celebrate 2 important wins. You're 4th in the table regardless, right? Things are much better. A lot of work to do, of course. Amorim will say that. The players will say that. And I'm sure Manchester United fans will say that. Yeah. But, that would have, after such domination, to allow the team to come back like this, and then in between still having, a couple of chances, half chances, whatever you want to call it. I think we take it. We say, yeah, well done, United. 3 points. That's what matters. Doesn't matter how. We often say that. But I think that 4th goal was important. Important for the psyche of United. Amorim, I'm sure, as much as he's going to remind his players that there are no easy wins in the Premier League and great performance when a little bit sour, I also think that Amorim is going to appreciate the fact that United, until the end, were fighting for that, security goal, if you will. Their attitude was positive at home, at Old Trafford, where they've had a terrible season, last couple of seasons. Let's be honest. I think that goal is important, and it's good that it fell into Mbeumo, because, as I said, still I'd pick him as the player of the match.
Just looking at the Premier League table, if it was only home games, and Manchester United would be top, 4 wins and a loss from 5, which is so different from last season, where teams are looking forward to a trip to Old Trafford because they knew they had a chance. The goal that Mbeumo's got, his 2nd goal, it puts a far better perspective on the outcome. Because 3-2, you'd think, oh, were United holding on if you hadn't seen the game? United deserved to win this by a couple of goals at least. And they got that goal. I'm glad you said something earlier, and I want to pick up on what you said. It was a brilliant assist by Bruno Fernandes by not doing anything. He goes to try and pretend to go for the ball and leaves it. It's Aidan Heavens through ball. He's come on. He was the first United change for Luke Shaw. And he's finished with aplomb by Brian Mbeumo. And United deserved that, didn't they?
They absolutely did. And yes, just the knowledge. I mean, there may have been a shout there, leave it. It didn't look to me, by the way. I think it's just instinct of a great player, which Bruno Fernandes is, right? I mean, for you and I, that would have been very difficult, right? The temptation to touch that ball. It just not even knowing that there was a run being made, a little bit of that diagonal run and behind. So the pace of the ball and the pass from Haven was absolutely excellent, and that's why I think Bruno Fernandes decided to let it go, because if that was underplayed, I promise you, Bruno's smart enough to know, yeah, that's not getting there. But just the knowledge of a run being made and the way it was finished was tremendous.
First time in 3.5 years, United has beaten Brighton at home. Bruno Fernandes scored that day. The first goal was scored by a certain Cristiano Ronaldo. Manchester United have moved up the table, up to 4th, chasing Sunderland, who won earlier in the day at Chelsea, to go up to 2nd. Still plenty of games tomorrow. And before that, Brentford against Liverpool is the final game in the Premier League today. Full reaction on tonight's ESPN FC. If you're watching in Europe, remember your clocks go back tonight, so don't forget about that. And we will do all this again tomorrow. Some good games as Arsenal take on Palace, and City go to Aston Villa, and Everton face Spurs in the late game. Full reaction right here at ESPN FC. Thanks to Yanis. I'm Mark Donaldson. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.